What's going on, everyone? So today we're going to take a look at LKCO stock, otherwise known as Luokung Technologies. And it's Friday, the market's about to close, and by the time you see another update, it's going to be like 2+ days. So we'll have to wait and see some more action, what's happening. But at least right now, it seems like there's not much going on, at least for the rest of the day regarding LKCO. After hours, maybe something crazy might happen, but right now, let's see what's going on. Just remember, this video is for entertainment purposes only. This is not financial advice. Be sure to do research before making any investment. But here, we've been following this for quite a bit right now. So far, it was trending upwards above the 50 EMA. Decided to dip, basically below the 50 EMA right here. And at least right now, we can see this, that we weren't able to break out of the 50 EMA. We tried to test it here, and then we couldn't push up enough. So basically, we sold off. If we were to look at that percent gain, if we were to take it from this low red candlestick here and then rise it up above, that's like a 38+%, which on this chart, it doesn't look major, but in the grand scheme of things, that is a humongous percent, at least in the stock market, for a short period amount of time. So I'm not surprised to see it do have a little mini sell-off right here. The RSI was indicating that was potentially oversold in this area. People decided to buy back in. So we still have some more room for it to continue to trend upwards, but it all depends too next week, right? If the market is red, then don't be surprised if this were to drop back down to support levels. I mean, we could go back again and test these areas around maybe like, looks like if you were to go to the bottom here, that's closer towards like the 103, 106 marks. But in terms of support levels here, it seems like it's pretty much holding steady around the 132, 133, which I stated from my previous videos that I pretty much said that after like 180, it would have to test around these areas. 160 broke through, going all the way down to pretty much the looks like what, 110, 109, and then now we're holding heavy support right here around the basically 130-ish plus mark. So now, assuming the market ends up being green next week, we could see this break out the 50 EMA and then test the resistance around the 160 plus mark. And then after that, I mean, hopefully we could see this rise up to closer to the $2+. Again, we do have to get over that psychological 2 even number. So if we were to break out that, then who knows what's going to happen. But if worst case, the market is not looking too good, or maybe some bad news comes out about LKCO, then we could see this chrome back down, maybe touch the $1 price points. And if it were to break $1, then I could see this going even lower, passing towards even the 90-cent mark. And then maybe, I mean, unless there's some crazy news happening, then I don't see us hitting 70 cents really anytime soon. Again, that could happen depending on how bad the market is next week, assuming it's red. If not, then we should be pretty steady holding support around the $1 mark. But again, it's also super risky because we're still potentially going to get delisted unless we get a confirmation the next month. So at least for these next few weeks, we're pretty much a waiting game right now. We don't really have much updates. There was a post on Reddit showcasing the DoD and their factors, what they're considering on why they think LKCO is potentially part of the Chinese military, which I'll show you guys that in a second. But at least right now, we'll have to wait and see what happens once the market opens next week to get a better insight on what's really happening. Because if you guys have been following a lot of other stocks, we're taking a beating. Some were doing quite well. Like GameStop was up pretty crazy, but a lot of other stocks were pretty much in the red. So here, LKCO, it's not trending upwards right now, but maybe we could see something reverse soon. But let me just show you this this one. So this is the first that I've seen of this, and this was on Reddit. And based off this, if I were to zoom in, this was back in 9/15 of 2020. So that's basically last year, if I'm reading this correctly. And it seems like, I don't know if this is completely updated or this is, the most recent stuff, but I'm just basing off what I can see on this paper. And then feel free to link down any updated resources or comment below. But from my understanding, these factors, they have 3 different factors essentially stating like what their reasoning were. So for instance, like factor 1 is the entity must be owned, controlled, or affiliated with the People's Liberation Army, government ministries, Republic of China, affiliated with the PRC, etc. So then here they just give, some details on like what they think Luokung has associations with and like how they fit into this factor. And then basically, once you finish it, it'll say Luokung meets the criteria for factor 1. And then same thing for factor 2, they must be engaged in commercial services, manufacturing, etc. And then here's their reasoning. I'd say based off factor 2 is not the strongest argument because it's kind of like vague. It's publicly traded, and then they say they supply products and services with the PRC and abroad for commercial use and profits. Now, maybe if they were to go in more detail, this would be much better, I'd say. But like, I feel like you could label some of these factors on a lot of Chinese companies today. So it's really, I'd say this factor I feel like it's not the strongest. This first one has some strong points, which I'll comment on in a second. And then the third one says that entity must be operating directly or indirectly in the United States. So this is what's interesting because they show here that they were selected by Ford to basically be the operations from China for autonomous driving. They also have talking about like US based companies here with the eMap Go and how that includes like McDonald's, KFC, Starbucks, UPS, and then also it's probably traded. Now the thing that I say is you want to look into here is 2019 it says eMap Go Technologies, but in short it says cooperation with Huawei. So if I'm reading this properly, and if this is the correct company, Huawei was the major cell phone company that did get banned in the United States, at least from my understanding. And they're stating that yeah, LTD was a CCMC, Chinese Communist Military Company, and basically if that's the case and they're in association with Huawei, then I don't see why they would let Luokung be allowed if they're clearly associated with another company that's banned. Maybe I'm just reading into this wrong, but definitely comment below and correct me if I'm missing something. And this was assuming I'm looking at the date based off this post that this was back in last year. So unless there's some new factors, new details that they have going against this, saying like, hey, this is not what we do, etc., then we're just gonna have to wait and see. But feel free to link any resources if you do find them. And then pretty much you can see here it meets criteria 2 or factor 2 and then factor 3. And then the determination, they state that they meet the criteria by this section 1237 of this number here. I'm not sure exactly what this does, but basically it says, and it's determined to be a CCMC, from my understanding is the Chinese Communist Military Company, right? So this is their argument right here, apparently. So again, I have to see Luokung's counter arguments. This seems like public information that we could Google, like the eMap Go stuff, you know, the working with these companies here. So unless there's like internal information that Luokung has that they haven't posted, or maybe this company is just keeping it super vague, then we'll have to wait and see. But again, regardless of what happens, always remember like this is super risky, right? Because if they were to say, hey, look, we don't like this, you're part of the military, Chinese company, whatever, then guess what? You're banned. Then the price probably going to tank, right? Just note that. It's not going to, I'm not saying that it could skyrocket within the meantime, between like this next month. Yeah, it could. It could go crazy and go skyrocket, right? But like if you forget, for instance, you know, you go on vacation or whatever, and you just put a lot of money in thinking, you know, it's going to be going to the moon. Next thing you know, you check your phone and it got delisted, it crashes off. Definitely be aware of that. So in terms of risk tolerance, if you're comfortable with high risk plays and you don't care about losing everything you put in, then okay, you know what you're getting into. But for people putting in like their life savings, things of that nature, I'd say highly recommend you don't do that unless you clearly understand like what the risks are actually going to be. So that's something to just keep in mind. But yeah, I just want to make this quick update and then just looking at this DOD stuff so you guys can check it out and let me know your thoughts about this. And in case you want to find this, just go on Reddit, type in LKCO, and you'll see a link to this stuff too. And aside from that, if you made it this far in the video and you want to get 2 free stocks valued up to $1,850, then be sure to click the first link in the description below. Sign up for an account, and as long as you deposit a minimum of $100 or more, you'll be able to receive 2 free stocks valued up to potentially $1,850. And aside from that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like the video, comment down your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one.